We have on my friend, Mr. Stefanos Sifandos. We have a riveting conversation about relationships and love and healing your inner child and so much more. We're going to be diving in. Do you want blissful balance in your personal and professional life? Great. What's up, guys? My name is Carrie Jack, and I want to help you happy hustle a life you love, one full of passion, purpose, and positive impact. I'm a lifestyle entrepreneur, a professional model / actor, a digital marketing specialist, a podcast host, author, a biohacker, an eco-warrior, a martial artist, a hippie cowboy, and a humanitarian. My goal is to educate, inspire, and entertain you to live a life of passion, purpose, and positive impact. It is time to happy hustle your dream reality. Yee-yee. All right. Steph, welcome to the Happiest Podcast, my man. I am super stoked to rock the mic with you.
Yeah, likewise, brother. I really enjoyed speaking with you just before we started here. There's a instant connection. I appreciate being here.
Oh, yeah, man. I mean, you are a happy hustler. That is for sure. I mean, you are a relationship expert, a trained educator. You have a background in behavioral science, and you talk all about love and healing inner child wounds and relationships. And you also put us through the Front Row Dads, an amazing breathwork session in which I was first introduced to your work. And I was like, whoa, who's this guy? And I got to get to know him more. So John, shout out to him from Front Row Dads, connected us. And I was like, I had to have you on the podcast to just share your wisdom with the happy hustlers out there. And I'm super excited to get into love and relationships and healing your inner child, wounds, and so much more. But before we get into all that good stuff, Steph, what's something interesting about yourself that not too many people know?
Oof, man,
Curveball.
I have, I'm gonna give you two things if that's okay.
Yeah.
The first is my very deep love for nature, specifically the ocean. There is just something, man, there is something that just gets me every time at a very deep level, especially now that I live in Texas, in Austin, and I'm not, I don't want to say I'm landlocked. That doesn't sound quite right, but I'm not near the ocean. Let's put it that way. I'm not by the ocean where like I grew up, and it's that space and distance. I really miss it, and so there's this deep connection that I have, this deep relationship that I have with the ocean and nature, just full stop. And the other part, man, something that I'm unpacking of late is, this may sound strange, but I'm just going to be very direct with you and your audience, is, the fragility of my own masculinity. And let me elaborate and go a little deeper on that.
Yeah.
And so I grew up in a very violent, volatile household. And after, decades of deep inner work and evaluation and really looking at my past and looking at my family dynamics, really seeing the insecurity and fragility in my father's ego and his identity and his self-worth, and how much of that I've picked up and how much of that I've masked and how I've genuinely done inner work around that. But after having a child and the dynamics between my wife and I changing, some old afflictions and old patterns of the past have been coming up for me. And I'm noticing that if I have to be really fucking honest with myself, right? And I don't necessarily want to be, because who the fuck wants to say, hey, part of my masculinity is fragile, or I'm living and behaving from some insecurity. Yeah. No one really wants to fucking say that. I don't want to say that, but it's true. And I'm feeling that and I'm experiencing that. And so I'm moving through that right now. And it doesn't mean that I'm completely fragile and I'm completely compensating and I'm completely insecure and I have low self-worth. No, it's not that at all. It's more so that in times of stress and duress, I'm seeing these patterns come out and they still live within me and they're still governing some of what I do. And so I've got to go, back to the proverbial drawing board and be with this stuff in a deeper way. And I'm just sort of in that process right now, man. And so that's why I say to your question, I answer your question in two ways. One is that deep affinity I have with nature and the ocean, which I don't think many people know about me. And second is this thing that I'm really working through right now. And, the paradox is, brother, is that, not that I teach men how to be men. I don't do that. Men, what I teach is, hey, you know how to be a man. Let me support you as a relational being on this planet. If
Yeah.
we vibe with each other, let me support you like I seek support from other men as well and other people. But I'm not going to
Yeah.
tell you how to be a man. I'm not going to tell you how to do masculinity. Part of being a man is figuring that out by yourself, and with other healthy people.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm sort of retraining myself to be the next kind of man that I want to be now in this new evolution of me. So that's sort of where I'm at
Mm.
right now.
Wow, man. Powerful stuff. Truly. And I appreciate your vulnerability just right out the gates. And that's one of the things I really appreciate about your work at large is just like you keep it real, like 100% all the time. And I obviously I'm sure there's still masks and things that you hold near to the chest and don't disclose as much. I'm in the same boat. I share scars, not open wounds. I have to heal it first, right? That old saying that I feel it's just so necessary to be raw though. And especially in uh, this fake BS,
Mm.
rent a Lambo and take a picture in front of it world, that everyone's like enamored by. But it's like, fuck it. What is going on? There's this fake digital identities. I appreciate someone like you who just, again, tells it how it is and also comes from a place of raw authenticity. Where do you think that initially came from, that bravery?
Oh man, I mean, I feel I don't feel a contraction when you say bravery. Maybe I'm just sort of sitting with that. And thank you for that very kind compliment. And I
Yeah.
definitely see where I've been very brave and courageous in many areas of my life. I guess I haven't viewed it that way in this particular instance. I'll let that sort of permeate in me. Um, but I think where the necessity to be real with myself comes from and with others, I think it comes from a couple of different places. It comes from seeing a lot of fakeness in the world because
Yeah.
I was fake so much myself, and
Mm.
that for a very long period of time triggering me. And even now, today, sometimes it still aggravates me and angers me when I see people that I know are living another life to what they're presenting online,
Yeah.
right? And that's my shit to work with. Like I get that, but it
Yeah.
doesn't bother me anywhere near as much as it used to, which is great. And so, yeah, which is very good,
Yeah.
for me at least. And so I think it comes from that place. I think it comes from just living a life of lies for
Mm.
so long, man. And I just got really tired of it. And I made a very profound commitment to myself to just not live that life anymore. And for me, my understanding is that authenticity is the highest vibration that we can live at, right?
Mm.
As humans, as sentient beings. And so
Yep.
I want to endeavor to do my best. That's not to say that I'm not wearing masks, like you said. It's not to say that I don't hold certain things close to my chest that I only share with other people or I share only with myself. My point is, I don't want to be out of integrity. It's a
Yep.
practice that I want to hold. And what I've noticed in my life, brother, is that when I'm not in integrity, my life is quite chaotic and fractured. When I am
Mm.
in integrity, there's a beauty to my life and a gratitude that I can access that is just deeper than if I'm not in integrity. And so, after living a life really not being real and just lying to myself and others, it's very difficult to go back to that for me.
Yeah. Ugh. Powerful, man. And it hits home for me too, because I don't talk about it too much on the podcast, but since we're being vulnerable, the truth is, like, I was so far out of integrity growing up. We had plenty of drama and, with our upbringing, everyone has a story, right? In relation to other people, they had it far worse. But then there's some might look at my past and say, wow, I'm surprised you made it, And one thing that I went down the path of crime. I was like really up to no good, manufacturing fake money, selling drugs, like fighting part
Yeah.
of this like white collar gang for a while, just like up to no good. Um, Stealing, lying, cheating, doing all the things like from 0 to 18, maybe not zero, but like, like maybe early teens to 18 and into my college years until I got arrested. I really realized, whoa, this life is going to end me in a box or, in a cell. And I realized when I fully flipped the switch and said, no more, like, this is how I'm going to live in integrity, stuff started just aligning. When you're in full integrity with yourself, my finances change shape, my relationships with my loved ones change shape, my career path. I've always been an entrepreneur in spirit, but this was, it was such like an eye-opening experience. Is like, all right, no more living out of integrity. You just flip the switch, and then, like you said, you don't look back. I know for you, I mean, and myself, like, there's times where you get almost tempted by the forbidden fruit, right? Where you could say one thing and do another. What goes through your mind in that split second when you may result to those old behaviors, and how do you, let's say, choose differently?
If I reach a point in my life where I am contemplating reverting back to old behaviors because they are familiar and convenient, and they do carry a capacity to relieve some pressure, but it's only momentary, I often just allow the thought process of that to continue. So I'll just be with that. Like, I'll really, really sit with that thought process, and I'll
Mm,
just let it amplify and grow. Like, I'll see myself doing the thing that I know I don't really want to do, but that I'm going to just for convenience. And I just
mm,
allow it to play out without judgment.
mm.
And then I attempt to bring compassion into myself through that process. And then I just get very real with myself, man. I ask myself a couple of questions around, is this really what I want to do? Without judgment, just being as objective as I can. Do I really want this? And if I do, where's it coming from within myself? Let me locate that. So I've got to get some real clarity before I go taking action like that, because that
Yeah.
could be very destructive, not so much just for my relationship and my external world, but it could be destructive for my inner world. And I
Yeah.
remind myself that when I am in integrity, when I am really being truthful to myself, life is a lot better. There's
Mm,
less fear, there's less contraction, there's less pain.
yeah.
Life is really a lot better. And so I keep coming back to that. And that,
Yeah.
that helps me and supports me in my process.
Mm. I really appreciate that perspective, because you're not judging it per se. You're just
Mm.
letting it play out, assessing the consequences of those potential actions, and then choosing differently based on the consequences and foresight. And I think that's profound in its simplicity, because we have this impulse as humans, right, to just, the get rich quick scheme or the 6 minute abs or whatever it is. Like, everyone wants things quick, the dopamine hits from social media. Everyone, I feel like we live in this instant society, and so you can succumb to the impulse quite easily without stopping, taking a pause, and thinking through the consequences of those potential actions. I do want to pivot a little bit into love at large, because one of our 10 alignments of being a happy hustler, we have our soul mapping framework. And one of them is the L, loving relationships. And I believe, without love in your life, like, you won't be fulfilled. You won't be happy. Right. And I think you, in order to really have true love, if you want a 10, you have to be a 10. Like, it starts with you. You have to attract that type of love. And, I know there's happy hustlers out there right now who are in a relationship. And then there's those others who are seeking a relationship. Talk to us about your journey, specifically, like, attracting Christine, your lovely wife now, and like, how did that manifest?
I think you nailed it, man. What we seek, we must seek in ourselves first. So what we seek outside of ourselves, we must cultivate first within ourselves to some degree. There's not a complete truth to that, in the sense
Mm,
that it's not absolute. And what I mean by that is that we're relational beings, as I mentioned earlier, and we complement each other in the way that
mm,
we grow and evolve and see the world, right? And so there's not like a complete truth to, oh, if you want something outside of yourself, you have to have it first. Like, it almost doesn't make sense. It doesn't. Like, for example, a material example would be, um, well, I want $10 million in my bank account, but do I have to have $10 million first to have $10 million in my bank account? It's a
yeah,
bit of an oxymoron, right? And
yeah,
so, but energetically, you have to live in that vibration. And when I say that vibration, I'm not talking about a woo-woo spiritual concept, right? I'm literally speaking to the embodiment of the frequency that you wish to live at, right? And
mm,
so and to me, that requires a lot of inner work clearing the clutter of the past. And so to start really addressing your question is like, how did I meet Christine? And by the way, like, our relationship is not perfect by any means, man. Like I
Yeah,
mentioned
mine
that
either.
earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. And we're growing through that. We're going through new levels with each other. But to attract a relationship where we're both willing to do that, I really did have to be willing to do my own inner work. Like, the expectations I had and the thoughts I had around what does my ideal relationship look like? What does, if I want to be in a relationship, and I got to a point where I did. It was years where I didn't want to be, and I wasn't. And I practiced celibacy, and I practiced being single, and I dated and did all those things. And then I arrived at a place within myself where I thought, yeah, okay, I'm ready for a relationship now. And then literally a week later, I was introduced to Christine. But
Mm.
that was a result of inner work. That was a result of inner exploration, shadow work, like really looking at my traumas, at my unresolved, repressed traumas, and working through them, giving them an outlet, giving them release, working through forgiveness and learning to feel again in really meaningful ways, not hiding from the world, removing my masks, dealing with the shame that I was holding in my body and in my mind. There's
Mm.
many things that I had to work through and move through to be a clearer vessel, and to be clear in what I wanted, and to be able to communicate that as well. I had to practice more effective communication with myself, like getting
Yeah.
to know the parts of me that drive me, but also with others. And so it's a process, man. It's a process. So if you want something and you desire something, then it's not only, yes, you have to be that thing. That's part of it. But you need to be a clear channel for that thing to enter you. For you to be able to notice that thing in your world, you can't be cluttered by the
Mm.
muck of the past that is
Yep.
holding you into a pattern that is trying to keep you safe in familiarity. So we have to
Mm.
break those shackles, and that's part of the inner work.
Yeah. Oh man, so much to unpack there. I mean, I feel like we all get shackled to our story oftentimes,
Mm,
and I know Tony Robbins talks about you have to divorce your story and marry the truth, right?
mm,
And the truth is, if you are seeking love out there, you really need to focus on how you can be the best version of yourself so that you can attract a counterpart with from that higher state of frequency. And similar to your story, I was running amok, just spreading my seed and not prioritizing my chi energy, just giving it away freely and partying and having fun. Was living in Barcelona and Rio and Bangkok for a while. And I just, I had a blast and I got a lot of it out of my system. And when I was ready to find love, I talk about this in my book, I sat down and I wrote out the perfect partner page, right? It was just simple and just, okay, what is, yes, what do they, they look like? What does she believe in, faith wise, morals? What's her family like? I just got so specific. And oddly enough, I don't think enough people get crystal clear on the target. Yet, just like when shooting a bow and arrow, if you don't have a target, you're going to miss every time. Yet we get caught up and we are in this reactive state, especially in our love life, where whatever comes our way, we just, decide if it's a fit or not a fit, rather than being proactive and manifesting our dream target and our dream counterpart. And oddly enough, after I created this perfect partner page, wouldn't you know, my wife Steph, manifested, and the rest is somewhat history. I mean, we have a plenty of shit. Don't get me wrong. We're working through
mm.
all of it, but it's not. It hasn't been easy. Like, we've been on the ropes multiple times about throwing in the towel, and
Yep.
I mean, I don't think enough people have relationship grit like my friend John and Catherine Gordon talk about these days. For you and Christine, if you're okay to go there, when you are on the ropes and you're thinking about throwing in the towel, or anyone out there, what keeps you holding fast and really forging that relationship grit? Is there any tactics or specific things that maybe you could point to?
The first is a reminder of the love that we share and have shared,
Mm,
and coming back to that. So
yeah.
if ever you're at a point of wanting to throw in the towel when it comes to your relationship, and the relationship very well may be over and the towel may need to be thrown in.
Yeah.
However, ask yourself this question honestly and earnestly. Have you, let me put it this way, have I really exhausted all options here?
Mm.
Have I explored all avenues within myself? Have
Yeah.
I made the changes that my partner's requesting that actually may serve me and my own patterns, or breaking away from old versions of myself?
Mm.
Have I really gone to those depths? And if you can answer that and say, I really have, I've given it my all, then maybe the relationship is over. But whenever we get to that point, whenever we have got to that point of speaking about separation, or just not being in the relationship anymore in this way, we speak very specifically to, and it can be difficult, but very specifically to how the relationship is needs to change. That doesn't mean we need to leave or we should leave.
Mm.
It does
Yeah.
mean that things really need to change. Are we prepared to do that work? So let's identify what those changes are. Let's identify what we need to do. Can we do it? And are we willing to? Are we really willing to go to that place?
Yeah.
And have we exhausted all options? Because if we haven't, then all we're doing is bringing our old baggage into another fucking new relationship. And
Yes.
that's not
True.
going to work. It's just not going to
Yeah.
work. And so, why not, at the very least, heal some stuff that's coming up
Mm.
here, so that if we move into a new version of our relationship, wonderful. And if we
Yeah.
decide for whatever reason to not be in this relationship anymore, at least we've grown. Right?
Yeah.
There's a level of maturity that at some point you need to just start bringing into the relationship, and it's got to be actually be beyond your own selfish reasons. You know,
Mm.
I lived very selfishly for a long time, man, and maybe I still
Same.
am in many respects, right? And my selfishness was a trauma response. I'm not making excuses. I want to be very clear on that.
Yeah.
I'm just giving reasons as to how that's formed in my nervous system and my being, because I grew up very young, very fast. I was enmeshed and entangled and parentified with my mother specifically. I wanted to manage everyone's emotions growing up. Like, I felt like I didn't really have a youth and a childhood.
Mm.
And so when things get difficult, right, it's not that I'm a runner. I don't necessarily run, but I just don't want to know about it. There is an avoidant aspect of me. Like, that's for
Yeah.
sure, right? There's definitely an avoidant aspect of me, but that's part of my disorganized attachment style as well. And so which fluctuates between, like, insecure and well, the variations of insecure, I should say, right? And so, anxious and avoidant specifically. And so for me, I've got to get very real again with, who am I being in this relationship? What's arising here for me? How can I change this pattern? Because this isn't just the first time it's coming up. It's
Yeah.
come up in other relationships in different ways. So what can I
Yeah.
do differently? That's a sort
Yeah.
of long-winded way of answering your question.
No, man, it's sage words again. I resonate with, have you exhausted all options, right? Because if you haven't and you throw in the towel early, you, one, gonna have regret. Two, you're gonna just bring that shit and baggage to your next relationship, and you're gonna start the process all over, but you won't have that amazing history. And I just think people oftentimes, they think the grass is greener on the other side, but the grass is greener where you fucking water it, right? And like, you just have to water your grass sometimes. Focus on what you have in front of you and remember where that love came from. Don't compare and despair yourself to Cindy Lou Who and Joe Schmo on the internet going to Cabo. They're just putting out the best versions of the
Yep.
relationship. They don't talk about
Yep.
the the fight they got in over how he had to take 17 pictures of her on the pool, while she was drinking her Mai Tai. It's like they just put out the one good pic of them smiling. Like, so everyone has their shit, and I just think more relationship grit needs to be forged, because this divorce rate keeps skyrocketing, and it's a damn shame, in my opinion. When you talk to men who are on the cusp, and women, I know you coach both. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Apologies for interrupting your programming, but I have to tell you, the best investment you can make in yourself is one in which helps you acquire skills. You've probably heard people talk about, oh, just invest in yourself and you'll be successful. Yes, that's true to a degree, but you have to invest in skills that will ultimately help you achieve your desired results. And I think one of the best skills one can possess, be it an entrepreneur or an aspiring entrepreneur, is the sales sword. really knowing how to sell, utilizing pressure-free persuasion, which will make you more money and more impact. Now, if you want to know how to sell more efficiently and effectively, I just launched a sales course called The Proven Roadmap Process to Selling Millions of Dollars and helping you to increase your conversions guaranteed. And you can get access to this new sales course that The Happy Hustle is launching at thehappyhustle.com/sales. And if you act fast, you'll get it at the lowest price it'll ever be available, because we are launching it and we want to gain amazing testimonials and social proof to further share this knowledge. So if you act fast, you can get it at the lowest price it'll ever be. That's at thehappyhustle.com/sales. Now let's get back to this episode. I mean, is there a process that you go through to heal some of that inner child wounds? I know there is. I know you have a whole workshop, but I want to get into some of that high level work. And then obviously you have something really cool coming up and you have a lot of back end resources. Maybe we can kind of touch on some of those as well for people who do want to go deeper.
Yeah, thanks, Kerry. Yeah, so the process, we're human beings first, right? Absolutely, there are cultural discrepancies that we face and cultural nuances that we experience, and even biological nuances as well, right? Female issues are not going to be male issues, and male issues are not going to be female issues. And there's definitely a difference there. And for me, I celebrate our differences. And there's also a sameness, right? We're humans as well. And we share we process and interpret intense events and experiences, whether it's classified as trauma or it's something else. That's not too relevant. But the intensity of that, we process it very similarly in our bodies, right? In terms of how we then behave with that, whether it's a retraction or a contraction, whether it's a low self-worth that's developed, whether it's violence or a protective structure that we start putting out into the world, whatever it may be, right? But, when I'm working with anyone, but men specifically, so many men don't trust other men. So many men just don't. They very much struggle to be seen by other men. They struggle to see other men. It's very awkward and uncomfortable for them. Being real and authentic or genuine or vulnerable, whatever synonyms you want to use there, is very challenging for so many men. It reveals to them an intrinsic weakness, and they can't be weak, and because they had to grow up being tough, or they were teased for what was perceived to be weak. There's so many areas that we can go into here, right? And so what we want to do is we want to access this part of the self that hides from the world. That's the shadow work that Carl Jung speaks to. Right now, we don't want to judge that part. We want to meet it with compassion and non-judgment and curiosity. And we want to bring these parts out. Why are these parts important? Because these parts actually control, govern, and dictate and drive how you behave, how you give and receive love, how you show yourself to the world, your interests, your values, your beliefs, all the things that make you you, and all the things that help you pursue. This is why so many men specifically, they accomplish amazing things in the world, yet they fucking feel empty inside. And they feel empty because obviously they're not full, but they're not fulfilled because there's this part of them that's still saying, you're not enough. You've got to do more. You haven't proven yourself yet. That validation just isn't quite there, and it's never enough. And that's an old maybe father wound. Maybe father left them. Maybe father was violent. Maybe father was absent emotionally, physically, whatever, right? Maybe, that boy was bullied or told that he wasn't enough. And so as a compensatory strategy, he develops this, I'm going to be successful in the world. But it never feels full because that core wound's not healed. So we want to make the unknown known, and we want to do that really slowly. In neuroscience, it's called titration, and we want to move in and out. So slowly, titration, in and out, pendulation. We want to move in and out of that experience. Take the person to the edge of discomfort, bring them back into regulation. We've got to learn to regulate our nervous systems again. So many people are disconnected from their bodies. So disconnected, man. I love what you do in the world where you're taking people out, specifically men, out in nature and getting them back to earth and back to land. There's something so special in that, man. So unique and so necessary. Unique in today's world, right? Unfortunately, for the majority of the Western world. True. But it's what I believe we all need. I know I need it. I'll just speak for me. I need more of that. I shared with you, how important nature is to me. Yeah. So we want to make the unknown known, and then we want to gently start moving slowly towards this unknown. and get curious about it. There's questions that are asked there. There's somatic exercises and practices. There's reflective practices that come through. There's vulnerability, emotional release work, trauma release work, and it's all subtle, and it starts subtle. And it builds and it builds. And we develop a body for that. We develop a resilience towards that. Men are good at being resilient, right? So let's apply resilience and toughness into the realms of psychology, into the ethereal, into the immaterial, into the spiritual self, right? And that's where I will generally start. But it's all through two things that actually precede that: relatability and safety. I have to establish rapport and safety with individuals, and we have to relate to each other so that we can open to each other, right?
Yeah.
And I want to show that through my own leadership, through my own vulnerability, through my own truth, right? And I can sit here and I really value range of expression, Kerry, in humans, full stop, but particularly men. So I want to be here with you. And if we're touching on something that's really meaningful and deep and painful for me, if tears are coming up, I don't want to block the tears for the sake of blocking the tears. Just let them come up. But then in another breath, if you say to me, hey man, let's go work out, and let's go lift, these 200-pound boulders and move them, 500 yards, I'm like, fuck yeah. Or, hey man, let's do some wrestling. Let's go spar and box.
Yeah.
Cool. I want to be down for all of that. I want to have range in my expression. And I'm going to come back to something, man, that comes down to clearing the clutter of the past, being a clear channel, and having range in intellect, in our emotional being, in our physicality, in our spirituality, and in our relationality as well.
Oh man, that's beautifully said. And I think the safety and the relatability that you possess, and that your ability to have emotional intelligence has what's allowed you to be such a powerful leader in this space of transformation and healing work. I appreciate it, man. And especially the titration where you can go in and out and not push too hard, but, read what's needed in that given moment. And I don't know anyone personally doing it at the level that you're doing it at. Like, it's really awesome and inspiring. And I urge all the happy hustlers out there, like, we all have wounds that need healing. And in order to get to your optimal self and to really happy hustle a life that you love, you need to do that shadow work. You need to face those demons, and you need to have a guide like Steph and Christine, really. Where can people go? Tell us a little bit about this really cool inner child workshop starting this month. If you're listening right when it drops, February 29th, this inner child workshop is kicking off. Talk to people about what that is and where can they go to learn more.
Yeah, thanks, man. I very much appreciate that. So you can go to my wife's website, christinehassler.com/reconnect is where you can find all this information on our next Inner Child live training workshop, which is really for everyone. Anyone that wants to get more into their joy, anyone that wants to really feel happiness and contentment in their lives, like feel really connected to the things that they're doing, the things that they're watching, the relationships that they're in. If they want to feel more connected to and be proud of their behavior and the way they show up and the quality of their relationships, then this is for you, right? And often what happens is when we have a wounded inner self or wounded inner child, and there are layers and there are versions of our inner selves, right, that are governing, as I mentioned earlier, who we are today. It's that iceberg scenario of, there's a few percent of the mind that is conscious and the rest is underneath the surface and it's unconscious. And that's where all of our values, our beliefs and our drivers and the need and necessity to be safe resides. And it really stimulates how we do life. And so if you want to make more of that unknown known so that you can be in greater mastery of yourself and really access deep, authentic joy, then inner child work is one modality of many, of course, but one that is super powerful, especially when combined with other somatic practices and other modalities that can really support you in shifting and breaking through old ways of being, right? So that you can actually be in a place where, enough is enough. And you can control your urge to be aggressive, or you can control your urge to retract and be healthy in your communication. So part of it is we're going to learn healthy communication. We're going to learn how to access these parts of us and communicate with these parts of us. We're going to learn tools and techniques, not only for accessing, but actually changing behavior and shifting the way we show up in relationship to ourselves and to others. So it's a 10-week course. It starts on the 29th of Feb. They're about 90-minute sessions once a week. There's some integration weeks there as well. It's going to be really powerful. We've been doing this for 4 years, this particular course, and it's super effective.
Wow. I mean, sounds amazing. I think I'm gonna have to sign my wife and I up just to so go with you with the happy hustlers through this, because I mean, who doesn't need what this potential workshop can bring to light and just foster joy? And I mean, this is stuff. It's I don't know if you can do it on your own. I mean, really, right? Stuff like it's tough stuff to do on your own.
I share something with you, man. Like Christine and I were having a conversation this morning, and we were just talking about our relationship, and we both agree that we have got to a place where we can't do this on our own. We can't go to the next level of our relationship by ourselves. So we've engaged someone to really support it. I mean, we have individual support. That's to me, that's a side note that's necessary in relationship. But we need someone to help us navigate the complexity and the resentments and the build up for so many years that we've has been unspoken. There's lots that has been spoken to, but lots that hasn't. And one thing I'll say to this as well is, so many people experience, and this was me too, man, like money blocks, and their relationship to money is like burn build, or the relationship to wealth. And wealth and money are different things, and similar but also different. Their relationship to wealth and abundance is really skewed, right? And doing inner child work, or doing this intra and interpersonal work in a supportive, with coaches and support people that are taking you through a journey, but also doing it with hundreds of other people that are also on a similar journey with you, it unlocks something that gives you an opportunity to heighten your self-worth. And if you're raising your self-worth, you're raising your relationship to wealth and what you deserve as well.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, definitely the wealth and the blocks around money are a byproduct of really getting to know thyself, healing those inner wounds and the shadow work that you do with people throughout this inner child workshop. I'm sure it expands boundaries in every vertical of life. So check it out, christinehassler.com/reconnect. We'll link it up in the show notes as well. And man, Steph, this has been so powerful, brother. I do want to put you through the happy hustle hacks and then the rapid fire round. Then we'll wrap this up real quick.
Yeah, I love it.
This is just happy hustle hacks, meaning like a tip, a tool, a tactic, something in a couple different disciplines, but I want them to be uniquely Steph. Something first and foremost for health. I know health is a priority for you. In order to, serve others, you have to take care of thyself, right? What would you deem a happy hustle hack in the health game?
Yeah, okay, cool. I mean, there's so many, and none are going to be original to me per se, obviously. There are far better people like our friend Ben, and Asprey, and a bunch of other, my friend Luke Story, a bunch of other biohackers that are far more informed than you and I. But something that I do in the morning, man, is like part of my routine in the morning. So I'll wake up, I'll get out of bed and I'll stand, and I'll sort of try and do it here, but I'm standing and I'm lengthening my spine. I'm just trying to get the top of my head to the ceiling. Like I'm just really lengthening and pushing my feet into the ground. So I'm just lengthening my spine that way. And I'll do that for, I don't know, like 60, 90 seconds and breathe. Like I'll breathe with that as well. And then I'll do an oil pull, so coconut oil, and that's an old Ayurvedic practice. So I'll just pull that for like 5 to 20 minutes. And then I scrape my tongue, and then I'll drink 24 ounces of water with Redmond sea salt. And then I'll brush my teeth. And that's sort of the beginning stage. And I'll do some stretches while I'm doing the oil pulling, or I'll just sit and pull oil, and I'll just sit in sort of silence, eyes closed, and just be with not putting the oil, And that's the beginning stages of my morning routine.
Yeah,
for health. Yeah,
those are great and definitely uniquely Steph. I love it. That's why I asked that question because who would have thought? I mean, everyone has a morning routine with a lot of the similar principles, but those are some
yeah,
unique components. I love it.
yeah,
Let's talk about money too. You know, I,
yeah.
I see money as a tool, right? It's a frequency.
Yep.
It makes you more who you are. What would you say is a happy hustle hack when it comes to money for you? Maybe something that you do to save or invest or spend wisely.
Yeah. So for me, every dollar that comes in, 40% goes to savings or investment,
Mm,
savings slash investment, right? I'm essentially investing that money in
yeah.
some capacity. 30% goes to tax. And let me just be very clear, I'm not paying anywhere close to that in tax
Yeah.
with the strategies I have in place. However,
Yeah.
I put that money away, right? And then it just gets
Yeah.
converted into investment and savings. And everything is very much above board as well with what I do because I
I got
I,
you.
I want to be obviously,
Yeah.
and then the
Same.
remainder is just is OPEX and just life spending and so forth. And so for me, that's a principle that I live by. I believe it's called money first. No, hold on, profit first. The
Profit first.
profit first
Yeah.
book. Yeah,
He's
profit first
Michael's
book.
coming on the podcast actually. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah, but I didn't actually learn that from there. I actually learned it from Dr. John D. Martini
Oh,
many
nice.
years ago. Many years
Yeah.
ago, right? Um, so that's sort of one thing. And another thing I say from someone that's come from, multiple six figures of credit card debt because I chose to, go into years ago, obviously, to
Yeah. Yeah.
go into my well, not obviously, but let me be clear, years ago. um, I chose to go deep into my own work, and that's how I survived using a credit card that I had a very high limit on. Um, don't keep yourself in debt.
Mm,
I it's don't I should say more to say this. Don't perpetuate debt. I'm not saying focus on paying down
yeah.
your debt. I'm actually not going to say that because
Yeah.
there's some mechanics behind that. But don't perpetuate debt. If you can't buy it, you can't afford it. Don't fucking get it just to keep up with
Yeah.
the Joneses. Don't
Yeah.
do that. So
Yeah.
that's say that as well. That's a
Yeah.
whole.
No. Wise words. I totally agree. Like being debt free is absolutely liberating. I'm just so grateful for that freedom that I feel because I wasn't debt free. I had credit card debt in my early 20s, and it was like it's like suffocating, every day. And so I do think having that principle of knowing how much goes allocation to spending and saving and then investing, and then obviously Uncle Sam has to get his cut. So I think it's wise, and explore tax strategies like our good buddy Garrett Gunderson talks about, right? So there you go. All right, man. Let's talk about spirituality real quick. Happy hustle hack, something that you do to just connect to a higher power. I know there's a ton, but maybe something again a little uniquely Steph.
Yeah, man. For me, it's various ways, but nature.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna go to something that's accessible for most of us.
Mm,
Even if you're living in New York City, which is a megalopolis, right? Like get to a park or something, but like deeply nature. Like
yeah.
that's for me, and also in done in very specific ways. Sacrament and plant medicine can be a beautiful access point to expanding consciousness and touching something deeper alongside breath work.
Yeah. Yeah. Great recommendations there. I fully believe nature is the remedy to really connect
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
a higher power, so and
Yeah.
I've done plant medicines and journeys, and it was profound. I do think now it's getting glorified, and everyone and their mother's a shaman now, and it's like
Yeah.
uh, you have to use discernment when you're going that
That's why I
route, but
said under
I do think it
specific
can be
conditions.
powerful. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. All right, man. I want to respect your time. Real quick, happy hustle rapid fire round. So this is just random questions, and I ask you, and
Yeah.
you answer honestly. Are you ready?
Yeah. Yeah.
All
Ready.
right, let's go. Favorite food?
Oh, pasticcio.
Oh, nice. Favorite movie?
Bicentennial Man.
Nice. Favorite book?
Walking with the Himalayan Masters.
Ah. What's your spirit animal?
Oh. Wolf.
Oh, I see it. Best business advice.
Be consistent.
Three things you're most grateful for.
My daughter, my wife, and my willingness.
Yeah, brother. I
Mm.
feel that. And if you had a billboard for the world to see with your last piece of content on it, what's that billboard read?
Uh, be willing to do what your generations before you weren't.
Powerful, brother. Man, I just want to take a moment to acknowledge you, Steph, for sharing your love, your light, your wisdom, your unapologetic self. I mean, your inner child workshop with the Happy Hustlers and this potential, uh, opportunity for people to just really become a better version of themselves and heal some of those past wounds, man. I really appreciate the work you're doing, and I just want to say thank you.
Thanks, Kerry. I appreciate you, man. It was great connecting in this way, and I look forward to many more connections with you and I moving forward.
Yeah, man, same. The collaborations are definitely coming in the future, and I'm stoked to
Yeah,
potentially have you out at the Montana
yeah,
Mastermind soon, man.
yeah,
And
absolutely.
go ahead and just mention where's the best place for people to follow you online as well, and maybe that
Yeah.
workshop link one more time.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so at Stefanos Sifandos, any of my social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube. And with respect to the URL link, it's christinehassler.com/reconnect.
Nice, awesome, brother. Final question: what does happy hustling mean to you?
Oh man, uh, I think it's doing what you love and monetizing what you love, but not being addicted to the hustle, right? And so the
Mm,
hustle doesn't control you, but you have greater mastery over the hustle.
mm. Mic drop, y'all. Steph, this has been an honor. Thank you all for watching and listening. Peace and love, everyone. We're out.